Supreme, of course, throughout the winter months as well. Is this why Red Bull are on the back foot? Is this why Mercedes are slightly on the back foot? Do they design suspension?
More race running, if they can. They've got 20 minutes. Bit of a tall order, but I wonder if some of them will pan around race running, if they can. They've got 20 minutes. Bit of a tall order, but I wonder if some of them will pan around a bit more than we're used to seeing, or whether they'll literally put the lap time in and calm down and sit back and wait for Q2.
Well, you've also got the situation, Martin, where normally we'd have had 3 practice sessions by but you might do today.
Yes, I think the track will evolve pretty quickly, Croft. You're absolutely right. 32 degrees track temperature. That's a nice temperature to be operating in. Not too hot, not too cold. The tyres should grip up before they rip the surface of the tyre like a...
On the back foot, Sauber, McLaren, sadly, obviously, and Ocon in the Force India, although he'll be hoping to make it safely out of Q1. Haven't spoken too much about Lance Stroll and the real Jolie and Palmer, and doing very well, settling in very well for his first trip in an F1 car round Shanghai. Palmer for his part as well, both Renault's going okay, but Palmer the better of the two, saying that the car was well balanced and is looking forward to this qualifying session. And so setup work, but not a sign of them as yet. But a thought, Crofty, on Daniel Ricciardo. Been a bit quiet on Ricciardo, really, hasn't he, so far this weekend? All right, he didn't do any running yesterday, but behind Verstappen in free practice 3. So that's a storyline I'll be following throughout the day. Where's Ricciardo at?
Australia, which is more than he thought he'd get the chance to do at one stage, to learn about the car, but very much thought that they're not at a stage where they understand it fully to get the best out of it.
They know that it's not going particularly well, the car's not super fast, and of course Mercedes and Ferrari really have put their act together, and there's a little bit of head down, chin down, you sense in the team. They need some upgrades to bring themselves back into play. But Giovinazzi does love to chuck the steering wheel at the corner. He really launches the car into the corner, and there's several shots now we've seen on this first lap of his where he puts a massive amount of steering.
Learning this circuit, driving this circuit for the first time, but we were talking just before we came on air, Martin, that he's actually raced here, but in sports cars, in the LMP series.
Yes, I think he was in the wet race there. It's unsighted, very unsighted, and as always, their corners you have. They caught a good shot there. We broke it against somebody in the first corner somewhere around the world, and we never made it the supla, they called it, in the team, and it was superb. You want the wing up into the slow corners, and then the wing down in the straights, and you're allowed a certain...
Not quite horizontal.
Unravelling.
Yeah, there's Lawrence Stroll in the back of the Williams garage. His son Lance, 1:35.1, as the fastest of the 3 times. Giovinazzi ahead of Marcus Ericsson in free practice. He was about 6/10 slower than his teammate. Got within a couple of tenths of Ericsson. 8 races. Watching Nico Hülkenberg now in the Renault.
On super soft tyres, and Ferrari have gone out on soft tyres, I'm informed. So enough time in their pocket not to need the grippiest of the boots.
And also getting a feel once again for how those soft tyres will interact with what I would imagine. If it does stay dry tomorrow, should be the favoured race tyre, but it's a big if given the weather forecast at the moment.
Left rear wheel off the ground just then when he flicked it into 11. Occasionally around Monaco you'll see your front wheels off the ground, but so just under 200 miles an hour, then 321 clicks. Yeah, that's just a camera apparently. My eyes were deceiving me as I looked back up to the screen. You can run a
the man who was sat in that car last year, Kevin Magnussen. We're on board now with Lewis Hamilton towards the hairpin, heaviest braking zone on this 3.387 mile circuit. And
somebody's
someone's had a spin there. Romain Grosjean on the straight. Hamilton would have had to have backed off, would have seen the yellow flags. Still sets the fastest time though, but could have gone quicker.
And Grosjean's burned some holes in those tyres. I don't know if they're further and start munching his own bodywork.
Well, we saw Pascal Wehrlein come a cropper at this part of the track last year, but just got on the curve, didn't he?
Did it just the Astra or anything? He just kept it out of the wall. So if he can get round without the rear tyres falling apart, he'll be okay. I think he spun up on the boost.
You have a puncture.
Surprised.
Sebastian Vettel, as we're watching these replays, has gone fastest by 0.3 of a second, and he's on the
I did see it again, but I think he'd lit up the rear tyres and then ran a little wide with the rear end of the car. I think he just poked the throttle. He's injected a huge amount of torque into the system, and the tyres have spun up, and he can't reconnect them.
Fernando Alonso, 0.8 off the pace, and he's only 2/3 of the way through the lap, and he's got the world of pain that is the back straight for McLaren to come. Now, the predictions from McLaren were that along this back straight, and then they wouldn't be able to deploy anymore because there wouldn't be any. And in that speed trap, 314 kilometres an hour. So he's already about 10 kilometres an hour down on some of the others we've seen. And we know that those others, Martin, will have not turned their boost up to their fullest amount just yet.
And if that ran into you at 10 kilometres per hour, you'd know about it. That thing is hanging off the back. They're trying to connect with ET or something.
It's either based on an old TV aerial or a bit of a razor blade.
Teletubbies or something.
Or is it La La Land? I think he's actually existing in at the moment. Daniel Ricciardo goes 5th for Red Bull. Fernando Alonso. Bottas now, his T-wing.
I hear something not right with the engine, mate.
But what that is, we're not quite sure. His T-wing fell off this morning, and it was a different T-wing. And flexing about and being given a bit of punishment as Bottas goes very wide on that final corner, and he's 0.6 off the pace, 4th fastest.
Struggling a little bit to get anywhere near Hamilton's time at the moment. So we're on board them, and the man has said he thought he could hear the motor not particularly happy. He's on a 25.228, so 5 is. And he's been called in for the weighbridge as well, just to add a little bit of pain. His men are allowed to be down there to stop the brakes catching fire, and especially if you launch off a hot lap like that, Crofty, when you've been pulling over 1,000 degrees in the braking zone and launch it into the pits, the heat soak can cause all sorts of problems.
And it's totally random as well. The FIA choose at random cars that get weighed to make sure they comply with the regulations.
Not much to improve. I push like an animal.
Fernando Alonso pushing like an animal, doing his bit.
P9 at the moment, despite the slow straight line speed.
Just looking now as they push Max Verstappen back in. He's not set a time that's good enough yet. Now we don't know what's wrong with the engine. It could be a whole host of issues, but they're going to have to do something pretty rapid and then get him back out again for a lap that will. Well, he's going to have some pressure on him now to get out of Q1. The aerial, the pitot tube, it's got a little silver stripe to it at the top to show you that it's Esteban Ocon, not Sergio Perez. My suggestion.
Nothing you don't know, Crofty, is there?
Well, I did suggest to the team sombrero or beret attached to the pitot tube would be more helpful, but it was like silver stripe or nothing, Crofty. So we watched Stoffel Van Dorn and a really good slow motion shot. That is to see some of the loads going through the car.
Just first on Max Verstappen property, Red Bull think they fixed the problem and have sent Verstappen out on a new set of super soft tyres. So Verstappen is on an out lap now. About Stoffel van Dorn, he did have a little technical problem that kept him in the garage early on, which means that he really does only have this run, and then he's actually going to box and put on another fresh set. So he's obviously fueled for 2 laps, but as you know, as you said, guys, there's only really one hot lap in these super soft tyres, isn't there? Otherwise, before they're past their best.
He's coming in now, Ted.
Yep. I know, because that's right in front of me. Did you hear those wheel guns?
Yes.
Do you want to hear it? I'm going to change. There you go. You get stereo sound on the...
Another time, Ted, if we may, but we've got drivers under pressure here. Stroll way out of position in 16th at the moment, just starting his final effort. Jolyon Palmer down there in 18th. Grosjean and Verstappen yet to register any lap time at all. And Palmer then, they've got to get out of the pits with 2 minutes to spare if they want any chance of a hot lap.
And because of that, is that why Williams have sent Lance Stroll out now, not leave it right to the end? Actually give him a clear track, which might be better for him, rather than trying to hustle that Williams. Yeah.
Plenty of throttle through there. They have got some mechanical grip, haven't they? Watch him when he brakes hard. Go down in the cockpit, as you do, you always tend to submarine a little bit. He's a tall lad, so he gets buried well down in that Williams to help the centre of gravity.
He's a tall lad as well.
Yeah,
Lance Stroll.
So here you can nail it, and then he. Yeah, he's okay at the moment in his first 2 sectors to get up there and not too far away from Felipe Massa, actually.
Crashed in final practice in Australia, qualified on the back row, retired in his first race. Matched Jenson Button's debut for the team way back in 2000. Button went on to have a very successful Formula 1 career. We'll see what happens to Lance Stroll from here on in. But what he needs to do now is to get out of Q1, and he does that by going 5th fastest and ahead of his teammate Felipe Massa by a few tenths.
And that was much calmer than he was driving in Australia. He's not singing it around. That's
on board with Max Verstappen. Now this is the lap. Max Verstappen, it's right here where he's in mode 10. That is turn 16. Has he done enough on this lap to get out of the bottom 6? It's touch and go. No, he hasn't. He is out of qualifying unless these super soft tyres have got another lap in them, and he has got enough fuel. And that is a Christian Horner looking very disgruntled by whatever issues are affecting.
Williams ahead of his other driver at the moment as well. It's looking a challenging weekend for Red Bull.
So, Max Verstappen is in the bottom 6, keeping him company as Stoffel van Dorn just ahead of him. Esteban Ocon for Force India, Jolyon Palmer and Romain Grosjean, who hasn't set a time within 107% yet after his earlier spin. This is Stoffel van Dorn coming out to the back straight.
Carry on, fuel 4 position 6.
25.3 against 24.2 fastest. But he has done a personal best middle sector. Can he sneak into Q2?
He's a couple of tenths down in the middle sector compared to this man, Stoffel van Dorn. Giovinazzi on the track as well. Magnussen, Ericsson, Perez all under pressure. Force India have 2 cars under pressure at the moment. They haven't had a Q1 exit since Bahrain last year. Stoffel van Dorn only 16th fastest for him. He is still in the bottom 6. Giovinazzi now will see the checkered flag. And that is going to upset Romain Grosjean, who was on a quick lap, Jolyon Palmer, who would have been on a quick lap as well, and Esteban Ocon, because they've all got to back off now, because there's a salver strewn across the track and now lying right in the middle of it. And as it was in Australia, it was the last corner and the end of the lap that cost Giovinazzi dear.
It's going to cost the team dear.
He managed to keep his car out of the wall, and the young rookie Giovinazzi hasn't managed that. And that's quite a dent he's made in the tyre barrier there as well.
And the irony, of course, is by messing up other people's laps, he's through into Q2. It would be.
That, mate. That is us done.
Yeah, Verstappen starts on the back row of the grid.
He does, because whatever Max Verstappen was trying to do was thwarted by those double yellows. It's helped his teammate Marcus Ericsson as well.
This will delay Q2, of course. So Yeah, a little bit punchy. He did in Melbourne.
So you've got the bottom 5 here, which don't include Antonio Giovinazzi. Oh, hang on 2 seconds.
When it's not your day, it's not your day. Fudge.
And it wasn't your day, Roman. Sorry for that, my friend. But if Giovinazzi hadn't crashed.
He did actually get on the Astro. The tether's doing a fabulous job there of keeping the wheel somewhere near the car. Yeah, he did actually light it up on the AstroTurf. Gearbox as well.
Just
Grosjean knows if he stays on the throttle and does a better time, he'll be penalised anyway.
Exactly. Giovinazzi walking back to the Sauber garage whilst the marshals.
So it's a shame. It's just one of those things, I guess.
I hate to add to the bad news, but the stewards are investigating you and Roman for not slowing enough under yellows at the moment. What would you say to that?
I lost a second in the last sector, so I mean, I slowed a lot. I had no time on the board. I still lost a second. I knew there was a problem in the last corner, so I think if they look at the data, then they'll see that I was basically cruising across the line.
Just tell me how the car's feeling now, because obviously in Australia and in the race you had a really tough weekend and it really wasn't suiting you. How's it feeling today?
Yeah, much better. We did find a problem after Melbourne, so really that put my mind at rest because I wasn't happy in Melbourne with from after the crash on Saturday and Sunday, but straight away here it's feeling good, and I mean it's even more frustrating because I know that there's pace in the car. We were 9th this morning. It's all been going okay. The car was feeling good, and we're out again in 18th. So at least it's more, I can have optimism for tomorrow because the car's feeling good this time. Thank you.
Could well be wet tomorrow though. Might be a whole different ball game.
Certainly might be. Different ball game for Ferrari because out onto the track comes Kimi Räikkönen and Sebastian Vettel on the super soft tyres, not the soft tyres this time around. Q2 is underway. We've lost to Force India, we've lost to Red Bull, we've lost to Renault, we've lost to Haas, and we've lost to McLaren.
Just remember, this is a race start set. Race start set.
And for the second race running, it means 5 different constructors out in Q1. This is the race start set, says Bono to Lewis Hamilton. So, assuming he doesn't get any flat spots or do any damage to them, Martin, Mercedes only looking for the 1 run in Q2?
They usually do if they nail it, don't they? So they're all expecting to start at the front on the super softs. They want the extra grip, the extra 2 or 3 metres down to the first corner as the Ferrari launches into turn 1 and 2 and 3.
The corner that never ends.
Yes. This gets pretty punchy then. Easily full throttle through this right kink, of course, and pick a braking point. This is where we see overtaking in the race. 126, 128 overtakes last year. Some of them down into turn 6 there. Let's listen. Sounded pretty Harry Flatters through there, didn't it? Then they have to back off because 8 nips through the exit. And 9 smacks you right in the face immediately afterwards. A short run then, and this is an important corner. A reasonable straight down to a big stop, braking at 100 metres, just under. Now, an important point. You're easy on that center steering, a little bit wide there. That wasn't ideal for him because now, as soon as you floor the throttle, you will not lift it again. But over 1.2 kilometres.
In the first sector, Vettel and Räikkönen up on the 2 Ferraris. Räikkönen now towards the final turn. Wait for Valtteri Bottas. He's not quite got to the end of the middle sector yet, but Kimi Räikkönen's about to complete his lap. And is it the fastest time we've seen in the session? 1:32.6. It might be, or it might not. We shall see. Lance Stroll is the next driver to cross the line, and he does so now. And he's about 1.5 seconds further down. Next to cross the line will be Sebastian Vettel in the other Ferrari, and he just... give me your verdict on the way he took that final corner, but it's enough on that final sector to go 2/10 up on his teammate there, Martin.
Yeah, Kimi had the understeer we saw coming onto the back straight and then left a bit of time on the table in the final corner.
Hamilton's 100th of a second outside of Sebastian Vettel's time. This will be good enough to get through, but if we're going for a Q3 like this,
yeah,
then you do not want to go and put the toast on just yet.
No. Kimi definitely leaving some margin in the final turn.
We watch a replay of Kimi Räikkönen right now as Valtteri Bottas crosses the line and goes third fastest overall, a couple of tenths down on Sebastian Vettel, a tenth off his teammates. Stroll stays ahead of Kvyat and Hülkenberg.
You can see in the slower corners the cars have got a higher ride height. You can look underneath them, see daylight, and then as the downforce forces the car against its suspension, the tyres compress a little bit, and that's why they're sparking at high speed. They are literally running along the ground.
A decent lap there from Daniel Ricciardo. If you look at the timing tower to your left-hand side, he's just gone fifth fastest ahead of the Williams of Lance Stroll. We don't know Felipe Massa's timing. He hasn't set one. Sounds rather logical, doesn't it? But he's on the track at the moment.
Stroll a fraction slower than his best Q1 time. And this is building up to head into the lap then for Felipe Massa. Or another lap, I should say. Yeah, so he eases the car in to 1 and 2. Swing in late. Drops quite a long way downhill here. And then you let it run wide to try and get the throttle on best traction. Scrub as little speed off here as you can. Hit the anchors. Rotate the car so you can pick up the throttle early, because it now seems as if turn 7 is flat.
Williams have never had a car start outside the top 10 in China in the turbo hybrid era. And Felipe Massa himself here in China has only failed to reach Q3 once this decade as well, so it seems like a perfect combination for a Q3 appearance today.
Lovely little short shift in the middle of those two left-handers. He sort of coaxes the car into the corner, doesn't he, Felipe? Sort of eases it in with his hand high up on the steering wheel there, and just he's quite kind.
Speed of well over 200 miles an hour, 210 miles an hour. We shall see on the speed trap when he gets to the end of the straight. 326 kilometers an hour. Quick work out of that, 202 miles an hour.
Actually, a hand comes across your vision, but because you're looking out the side of the car, you don't really notice it. But as the wheel goes up, your hand does actually block your own visibility. 33.7 then, P6 at the moment. You're right, Ricciardo has suddenly got the best of the Williams.
Kvyat and Sainz, the two Toro Rossos, both in the top 10, as is Sergio Perez, riding on board now with the Haas of Kevin Magnussen, who's only good enough for 12th fastest and the slowest of the times that we've had so far.
You can see the understeer there, look. You can see the front just was a bit reluctant. The left front occasionally lifting off the ground, which is not a big surprise on that particular corner. Papa Massa there, and the animal is back on track.
Is it a Panda?
What happens if I cannot charge the battery? G2?
It would be G2, but we think it should be okay. We think it should be okay. If not, G2.
Goes 11th fastest, Fernando Alonso. Forget how far he is off Sebastian Vettel. He's only a couple of tenths, just less than a couple of tenths away from Sergio Perez. Once again, you rather feel that whatever animal he is today, Panda or otherwise, he's getting the best out of that car.
Yeah, and 2 seconds off the Ferrari. It's a long way in Formula 1, of course, but it's way better than I thought they'd be here. Ted.
Panda, Crofty?
Well, we're in China.
Driving like a panda?
Well, it was a sloth, wasn't it, in Australia? We're going to go for a panda today.
OK, fair enough. I'm just looking at how close it is at the front of the field, looking for some kind of guidance on Kimi Räikkönen and his difference to Sebastian Vettel. But when you actually have a look at it, it's nothing, is it, Crofty? It's 0.2 of a second. Kimi Räikkönen in 4th, I believe he is at the moment, to Sebastian Vettel at the front. So it is, despite a very long lap, incredibly close at the front. I'll follow up with McLaren, see what that problem is of the ERS problem potentially on Alonso. He's just coming back into the pits now.
The best thing is, Martin, if you look here, Valtteri Bottas has the best first sector time, Lewis Hamilton has the best second sector time, and Sebastian Vettel has the best third sector time. So different drivers, different cars, different parts of the track are excelling, which does normally provide the mix for a really exciting battle for pole.
It tells you just how close the cars are. So, just over 2 tenths covers the top 4 in over 92 seconds of action.
So, look, the 1:32.3 of Sebastian Vettel as well is the second fastest lap ever here in Shanghai, beaten only by Michael Schumacher's race lap record, which was surprisingly the 2 lap records here are exactly the same.
And we spent a lot of money getting from 2004 to here to match the lap times. A lot of money.
Pierre Gasly felt at one stage last year he might be here taking part in this qualifying session, in conversation with Max Verstappen.
Hulkenberg, the commentator's dream with a crash helmet like that.
Yeah.
You can spot him a mile off.
Shiny and red and contrast perfectly with the yellow of the Renault as well. Man who actually set the fastest lap here last year as well, here in China. Only one of only 2 in his career.
Pretty close, isn't it? 8th, 9th, 10th. They're all on 1:34.1. You can add Stroll to that as well. Q3 for Stroll, that would be a very good effort. And at the moment, he's 3/10 off his illustrious teammate.
Well, if he does, he'll answer some of the critics that are saying, why have Williams taken on such an inexperienced rookie when they've got a car that should be scoring double points week in, week out? I mean, not saying he's going to go off and score points just because he gets in the Q3, but he'll put himself in the right position. Hamilton obviously not coming back out again. I would imagine the top five think that they're safe.
I'd have thought so. They don't want to use up another set of tyres, do they? But I tell you what's quietly good this year is Toro Rosso. We don't say much about them, hear much about them. They're pretty much there, aren't they?
Absolutely.
Both cars are in the points in Melbourne. Once again, both of them in Q3.
Ted, down to you.
Just on Toro Rosso, actually, just peering across to their garage. I believe that both of them, both Danny Kvyat and Carlos Sainz, will go again because they're feeling that they certainly won't be safe in, I think, 8th and 9th at the moment, and they expect Hulkenberg and Kevin Magnussen to improve. That's the Toro Rosso you can just hear going out behind me. Actually, on that last run, on the first attempt in this session, Sainz felt that his car was unsettled by some gusts of wind, was asking for a wind check on the radio to his team, and felt the car lacked stability. So here we go, Felipe Massa, Sergio Perez and that Toro Rosso Sainz all going out now for their second runs, to be joined by Fernando Alonso. See what he can do in the McLaren Honda.
It's a good point Ted picks up on about the wind as well, Martin. Just looking out of the commentary box, there's someone waving a Union flag from the grandstand. The wind does seem to be picking up, and it is quite a big tailwind, isn't it, down the main straight? I mean, if you look at the blanket covering the Sauber as well, it's almost blowing off.
I don't know if the grandstands are affected, but that's a tailwind down the pit straight, isn't it, from these flags outside here. It's going to be a crosswind and the braking zone down into the hairpin at the end of the back.
Against his cars on the back of a low loader after crashing at the end of Q1.
11 cars on track then, surprisingly. I guess they want to use the tyres up to practice for Q3.
Might as well.
Because they obviously think we'll start on those tyres then. They're probably going to be wet anyway. We'll start on those tyres. We'll then go on to the softs, and that'll be our day if it's dry.
So Nico Hulkenberg, best qualifying here, 2014 when he finished 8th. The only time apart from 2013 where he's got into the top 10 in qualifying. At the moment, he's a fraction inside the sector time he needs to be on target for a top 10 qualification.
Listen to the thing running down the track.
Good comparison there to show you the extra G-forces with the higher speeds through that section of track from one year to this year.
5.5 lateral G's pretty handy, to say the least. That's a good effort.
And do you have to be a bit patient on this corner, or can you really go for it from halfway through?
They look like they just have to give it a bit of a breather, don't they?
Because if you don't get the exit quite right, as you were saying, Martin, you're losing a lot down that long straight.
Yeah, if you hit the throttle too early, it looks like you just climb the hill. And
track is clear, you can push. Raikkonen's
then our fastest first sector, quicker than Vettel.
By about a tenth of a second. But let's see if Nico Hülkenberg now can move himself up from 12th place and into the top 10. Where is he going to be? He goes 6th fastest overall.
Good effort.
Very good effort. Pushes Sergio Perez, his former teammate, out of the top 10. Danny Kvyat crosses the line in 8th place, so he's improved on his time as well. Marcus Ericsson is next across the line, goes 14th fastest, ahead of only his teammates, Giovinazzi. Kevin Magnussen is next, 11th fastest for him, decent lap, and puts the pressure really on Sergio Perez in the Force India. Whether he knows about it or not, I don't know, because he's on the track. Lance Stroll is still in the top 10, just though, as Sergio Perez goes 8th fastest. And Stroll will qualify in Q3 for the first time ever, unless Carlos Sainz, who we're watching now, can get the Toro Rosso back into the top 10. Sainz crosses the line, and he's missed out. So Lance Stroll, by a tenth of a second, does make it into Q3. Fernando Alonso will have to be content with 13th. Kimi Raikkonen sets the fastest time of the session by a couple of tenths, and his teammate Sebastian Vettel, for the second qualifying session in a row, backs off right at the end of a lap in Q2. He did it in Australia, didn't need to go any faster because he was already through anyway, but he did back off, and that, I think, is the fastest ever lap that Kimi Raikkonen has just put in around the Shanghai into Marcus Ericsson. And is that wind trouble he had there?
Just got a little bit punchy, didn't he, on the way through? Bit of imbalance, bit of aero imbalance, fighting the car, walked it wide on the steering wheel, really. And that's Giovinazzi's car.
And it is. Lap record's been broken. Lap record's been broken then, Martin. It's Kimi Raikkonen.
Yeah.
It takes it with that 1:32.1.
So they are the tyres he will start the race on, those exact set, and Vettel backed off, so he'll start on the first set.
Unless it rains.
Yeah, Stroll gets through, you're right, good effort, well done, P10, and only one Toro Rosso after that.
Carlos Sainz just misses out. Here's the difference, though, Martin, between the two Ferraris and the Mercedes and then Red Bull. Second off the pace of Valtteri Bottas. It's a big gap for Red Bull to be looking to try and make up over the course of this season. We get to a proper circuit.
A lot more laps on exits. Understood.
Get to a proper circuit as opposed to a street circuit. Having a crash at the end of Q1 that's helped him get through to Q2, but rather destroyed his car and forced him to take a trip to the medical centre. Let's hear how he is. He's with Rachel now.
Antonio, first of all, are you okay?
Yeah, all good. Just want to say sorry for the guys. You know, I was in the limit, find the limit, and I touched a little bit the grass in the exit of the last corner. So yeah, a lot disappointing because I was again up from my time. So and I was in the Q2 already. But you know, this happened in racing. Again, sorry, and I hope tomorrow will be a better day.
Do you think the lack of running yesterday meant that today a lot of drivers and teams felt they had to push so much into it that maybe driving too hard, pushing too hard?
I know it was same for everyone, same for me also in Melbourne. I just find the limit in the end and too much in the limit, I think. And yeah, I think also the grass there was a little bit wet. This was the problem. When I touched with the rear tires, I just lost the rear and nothing can do.
No, the car's only just come back, but what is the damage, and does it look like there could possibly need to be a gearbox change as well?
We don't know yet. We're waiting when the car is back, and I hope we'll be okay for tomorrow. Thank you.
We shall see what happens tomorrow. Forecast is for rain tomorrow in the morning and a bit of light rain in the afternoon. Might be a wet start, might be not a wet start. Either way, Martin, qualifying is going to be vital, and pole position essential here.
Pole position should be in the 1:31s, which will be a good 3.5 seconds faster than last year. They're not quite as fast down that back straight, actually. That's because of the extra drag and more downforce, but of course they've got much more frontal area with the wider tyres as Hamilton weaves his way to some temperature and building up to let the silver arrow fly out of the boat. And we haven't had a front row lockout from Ferrari since France 2008, and it was also 2008 when Raikkonen was last on pole, believe it or not.
It was key race for Kimi Raikkonen, his last pole, and also, as you mentioned, the last front row lockout 125 races ago for Kimi Raikkonen. that one. This is the 125th since he got pole position. It's the next one after Lewis Hamilton got pole position, but he's under pressure today. So how's his mindset? What does he do? Go out there and just drive it the way he normally does, or a little bit more tense because he knows the others are queuing up behind him?
Slightly wide out of 4, but keeping it pinned. Certainly had to work a little bit hard on the steering wheel. Most there in the middle, with the back of the Mercedes just trying to get away from him. But it'll be easier through there with the amount of downforce they've got now to carry the speed. But all of a sudden, you have to get busy on the steering wheel.
The Ferrari of Kimi Räikkönen through that hairpin seems that he's lost a little bit more pace throughout this lap. We see Valtteri Bottas go second fastest now with a 1:32.2. Räikkönen only third fastest. We look to the end of the straight and there is Sebastian Vettel in the Ferrari. Can he put it on the front row or pole? He can put it on the front row only, and there's 0.2 of a second between Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel, and as it was in Australia, thus far it's in Hamilton's favour.
Yeah. And Hamilton's got more time to come as well. You know what? It wasn't Lewis is totally committed, but I still think he's got a 10th or 2 left in that car. If he can hook up the perfect lap, keep it in the groove. So 1-3 for Mercedes, 2-4 for Ferrari. Ricciardo comfortably getting the better of Hülkenberg at this point, and not a particularly good first run then for Massa.
Nico Hülkenberg giving Renault.
Very bad grip, and the rear is not as good. I don't know, is the settings different that we had?
How do you go from setting the fastest lap on this track ever to not having the grip on the rear that you want?
It can only be, I can't imagine, I mean, they're in parc fermé conditions, and I'm sure if they change the settings, they'd tell Kimi about it, but so it can only be a different set of tyres and maybe slightly different pressures. The way he presented the car to the out lap, how he worked the car just before the lap started.
Something, talking to Lance Stroll on Thursday, something he said that there was the biggest thing he took away from that first weekend in Australia was the preparation of the tyres in qualifying on the out lap, and how important that is. So Lewis Hamilton doing a bit of weaving down the back straight to get a bit more temperature into those tyres. It's something Kimi Räikkönen is very experienced in as well, but just those little margins seem to make a huge amount of difference when it comes to setting a flying lap.
Well, it's a very inexact science, really, and it's down to feel and experience. You know, at the end of the day, it's an unsprung, it's an undamped spring, the tyre. It's a lot of mass, and it's a bit of voodoo to go with it as well. Very, very pressure dependent. It's quite an old-fashioned system if you think about it, the way you pressure a tyre and keep the integrity of the tyre with pressure. So you do get some variations, and that might just be what Kimi's talking about on setup changes with tyre pressures.
So as I was about to mention, Nico Hülkenberg putting Renault into Q3 for the first time since Brazil 2011. You want to talk about the team as Enstone, the Lotus are called Renault Lotus, Renault Lotus. They were last in Q3 in Russia in 2000.
Any dramas anywhere? He lost 2/10 in the middle part of the lap, a 10th at the end, and gained a 10th in the first part. So, but we saw Hamilton, didn't we, through those 2 left-handers of 9 and 10.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the quickest I've ever seen an F1 car go through there. They just joined 2 relatively medium speed left-handers, just turned it into 1 left-hander with a decent exit.
Which is kind of what a lot of the drivers were saying. You know, some corners are going to disappear completely. Some corners that were a lot slower are actually going to be a much more pleasurable driving experience, and faster with it. Ted, down to you.
I've got an answer for you, Martin, on Vettel. If you're watching this on our pit lane channel, on our interactive service, you'll have just heard a radio message from Seb saying that he felt that he was affected by a gust of wind in turn 12, which actually put his car offline. And his engineer, Riccardo Adami, looked at the data and said, yeah, we can see that. We more or less support that. So more to come from Vettel, and they're out for their second attempts now. The Force India, Ricciardo in the Red Bull, and Lewis Hamilton. See what he can do.
It'll be all 10 on track. Here we go then, Crofty. What can they do? What can they show us? Who's got that extra 10th to steal pole position?
Is it going to be Mercedes' success once more here in Shanghai. Pole for this team for the last 5 years in a row, but they come here not leading the championship, and that's for the first time in the hybrid era. It's their 150th Grand Prix. They're looking for a 75th pole. Meanwhile, Ferrari, who only have 5 poles to their name in this decade, and their last one being Singapore 2015, will hope that there's no more gusts of wind to put off Sebastian Vettel through turn 12.
So you get a little bit of track evolution maybe if you go out last, but you do then risk, if somebody has a spin or a mechanical issue, yellow flags, you've got more chance of that if you run at the end. So right at the front of the queue there's Perez and Kvyat, Ricciardo and Hamilton, and at the back is Raikkonen, and then we saw Vettel just leaving, as we're now showing 9 cars on track at the moment. Actually,
only Nico Hülkenberg in the garage. Yeah. You just wonder, you're looking at Hamilton on his outlap. Lance Stroll has hung back just a little bit. Hamilton might need to just hang back a little bit himself, really, because there is a bit of a queue ahead of him. I just wonder, I mean, Martin, if you were Lewis Hamilton, would you be thinking, oh, guys, I wish you'd have given me another 5 seconds before I left the garage, or not?
As Lewis Hamilton, I'll be thinking loads of things, Crofty, to be honest. One of them might be, give me some space. These, well, particularly the Toro Rosso and the Red Bull there, for them now, they cannot start their lap in the way they want to. No. They're having to slow down at the end of it, and they're not absolutely ready. You really want to come off that last corner feeling super.
He's got no one in front of him whatsoever. Finally, we get to the line with Lewis Hamilton, and he's got round about the length of the main straight and the first 2 turns between himself and the guy ahead of him, which is Daniel Ricciardo.
We saw 56% dialed up for his brake bias, 56% towards the front, I believe that would have been. And this is where we've seen him struggle a little bit on the previous lap for traction. He still had to make a small correction, but it was a better line through 4, flat out through 5, pin the brakes, rotate, so you can pick up the throttle. Yeah, hit the apex superbly there. Car slightly arguing about the traction demand there. Let's listen to this. What a feeling. It's just the most beautiful feeling in the world. A qualifying lap, a brand new set of tyres, and then imagine being in this car as well for good measure.
Interesting fight between Force India and Red Bull. Only a 1/10 of a second between Perez and Ricciardo through the first sector. Bottas just a little bit outside his teammates' time, and Hamilton still improving as he goes on through the first 2/3. The man on provisional pole at the moment has an improvement of about 6/100ths of a second. Now gets onto the back straight. Can he go even faster this time around as the checkered flag comes out?
Slightly curious run from 10 to 11, moving across the track, wasting a metre or 2. But he seemed happier out there for some reason.
Sebastian Vettel matches Lewis Hamilton's first sector. Valtteri Bottas is about 3/10 down. Kimi Raikkonen about 2/10 down on their laps so far. Hamilton has one more corner to come after this. That last corner described as beautiful by Martin Brundle. Is it going to be a 6th pole position here in China for Lewis Hamilton? He crosses the line and he has gone faster by 2/10 of a second. He has set the bar and raised it even higher for the rest to try and chase. Could it be 6 of the best then for Lewis Hamilton, or has Bottas, Vettel or Raikkonen got anything in hand to try and pin it back? Vettel's about 1/10 of a second down, but he's got one more sector to go. Valtteri Bottas round the final corner, crosses the line now. Where is he? He is on the front row alongside his teammate. It's Mercedes 1 and 2, but here comes Kimi Raikkonen. Raikkonen crosses the line, only 4th fastest. All eyes now on Sebastian Vettel, out of the final corner and across the line to put his Ferrari on the front row. But once again, it is Ferrari 2, Mercedes 1, Vettel behind Lewis Hamilton, who becomes only the 2nd driver in Formula 1 history to take 6 pole positions in a row. It's also his 6th here in China, and my oh my did he have to raise the bar, because the others were snapping at his heels today.
Textbook lap, nobody's going to beat that. That was just a sensational lap, just the way he picked the throttle up and right on the limit of traction. But Vettel 1/1000th of a second faster than Bottas. 1/1000th of a second for the front row of the grid.
Well, Yeah, well, Ricciardo and Perez were having a great duel for some of their lap. He finishes 5th and does beat the Williams of Felipe Massa. Good lap from Nico Hülkenberg to put that Renault 7th fastest, and you can see why Jolyon Palmer was a bit miffed. He was easily going to get out of Q1, and who knows where he might have ended
Lewis,
up.
that's pole position, mate. Great job. We've got Vettel in P2.
Sergio Perez finishes 8th in that final session, ahead of Danny Kvyat and Lance Stroll, who managed to get through to Q3 for the first time ever, but sadly for him was 7/10 of a second away from his teammate.
Yeah, Lance will be disappointed with that, because his 33.9 in Q1 was excellent. Then he went slightly slower in Q2 and slower again in Q3. He wasn't able to build, so lots to learn there, but he's in the top 10 on the grid.
So Hamilton ahead of Vettel.